Hello and welcome to the 9-part How Do I video series on Microsoft WebMatrix. You are currently watching part 3 of this series, How Do I Change the Visual Style of the Web Page Using the WebMatrix tool. In this example, we will demonstrate how to add styling to the web page using a cascading style sheet or CSS in WebMatrix. We will apply this styling to the default.html page that we created in part 2 of this series. Let's begin with the page division that is used to logically divide the page into blocks by using the div tag. To do this, wrap the list containing the movies into a div tag. The div tag is a logical divider that doesn't have any physical appearance, so there will be no impact on the output. Now let's apply the hyperlink functionality to the list items. To convert all of the list items into hyperlinks, wrap the text of the movie in an anchor tag and set the href property to hash. Next, let's add a header and footer to the page. To add the header, just wrap the h1 tag in a div tag and provide the ID value as header. Similarly, add the footer and enter some text and a hyperlink in it. Next, let's apply some style to the header. To do this, apply the style attribute to the h1 tag and set the color property to blue, font size to 32, font family to Verdana, and text decoration to underline. Now run the page in the web browser. The page displays a list of movies with a hyperlink applied on each of the list elements. Also, the header and footer are displayed with the styles applied to them. Applying style on every individual element would end up with a lot of text on the page, which results in slowing down the browser and hence affecting the overall performance of the site. So instead of putting all the style code in individual tags, let's specify the class attribute title on the h1 tag. To do this, enter the CSS code syntax for the title class. This code is placed within a style tag in the header of the page. Also set the class attribute of the h1 tag as title. Next, let's apply some style to the list of movies. To do this, enter the CSS code syntax for the movie list class that sets the list style property as none. This would remove all the numbers from the list. Now run the page in the web browser. The header is displayed with the styles applied to it. Also, the list is displayed without the numbers. Until now, we have been writing the complete code in the default.html file, but if the site has more than one page, then it is better to use the CSS file. So now let's create a CSS file and put all the style codes in it. To do this, click New, and then click New File. The New File dialog box opens up. Here select CSS as a file type and name it movies.css. Then click OK. It opens the movies.css file with an empty body tag. Replace this with the CSS code. Now go back to the HTML file, delete the entire script tag, and replace it to use the references of the movies.css file. It tells the browser to load the style sheet instead of getting the styles directly within the page. Similarly, remove the reference of the title class from the h1 tag. Next, let's apply some style to the footer to make it look a little nicer. To do this, insert a footer class in the movies.css file and apply some style to this class. Now run the page in the web browser to see the result. The page shows the similar results as shown earlier with some styles implemented on the footer. This sample application shows how you can apply CSS in WebMatrix to add the styling information to your web page and to externalize the CSS so that it can be shared across different pages, including how to set up a CSS class that allows you to style multiple elements. Thanks for watching the video, hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time. Hello and welcome to the 9-part How Do I video series on Microsoft WebMatrix. You are currently watching part 2 of this series, How Do I Create a Website Using the WebMatrix tool. In this example, we will demonstrate how to use the WebMatrix tool to create a simple website and populate it with the web page. Let's begin with creating the movies website and populate it with an HTML page that includes the page heading and a list of movies. To start with, navigate to the WebMatrix interface. To do this, click Start, click the Microsoft WebMatrix folder, and then click Microsoft WebMatrix. This opens the welcome screen. Now click the Site from the Template option to create a site using the pre-built templates. Various templates are displayed in the Site from Template dialog box. Let's select the empty site template and name it Movies. Then click OK. As a result, a new empty website gets created, which will be loaded into the WebMatrix editor. In the middle part of the window, information about the site such as the site name, URL, and path is shown. Next, in the left pane, click the Files workspace at the bottom to create a web page. This opens the Files workspace. Now click the Create a New File option to create a file. The Choose a File Type dialog box opens with various options for the different file types that are typically used on the web. Among these options, click the HTML file type, name it default.html, and then click OK. An empty HTML page is created and opened up, which will be populated with some content. Now let's edit the page by including the heading and list items. To do this, enter some text into the title tag and also enter code between the body tags to define the contents of the page. Next, click Run to launch the browser and open the website. In the web browser, the page heading and the list of your favorite movies are shown as an output. This sample application shows you how you can use the WebMatrix tool to create a simple web page and serve this web page as part of the website. Thanks for watching the video, hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time. Hello and welcome to the 9-part How Do I video series on Microsoft WebMatrix. You are currently watching part 7 of this series, How Do I Create an Edit Data Page in WebMatrix. In this example, we will demonstrate how to modify the existing data in WebMatrix by creating an Edit Data Page and using a parameter to initialize this page with the desired record. Before we start creating the Edit Data Page, let's have a look at the final result of part 6 of the series. The page shows a form that the user can use to add new movies to the database. Now let's begin with creating a new form to edit the existing list of movies. To do this, create a new CS_HTML page and name it as editmovie.CS_HTML. Then replace the content of this page with some headings specified in the h1 tag. Next, enter a form tag after the h1 tag. Then enter 4 input controls within the form tag. The first 3 input controls are used to enter the values of the movie name, category, and release year, and the last input control is used to save all these values in the database. Next, let's call the Edit Movie CS_HTML page from the DataMovies.CS_HTML page. To do this, navigate back to the DataMovies.CS_HTML page. Here, modify the hyperlink to go to the EditMovie.CS_HTML page. Also add the code to find the particular record by passing the ID value as a parameter. Next, in the Edit Movie page, let's add the code to modify the existing records. To do this, navigate back to the EditMovie.CS_HTML page. Here, enter the code to find out the value of the parameter ID using the request object. This code will create a local variable named ID and will use the value of the parameter ID to initialize this variable. Next, let's apply the select query to find out the details of the particular movie. Now let's call the database.open method to open the database and call the db.querySingle method to get a single record from the database. Next, initialize the values of the variables with the corresponding form fields. Then pass the values of the variables in the request object. Next, use the SQL update command to update the database. After this, let's call the db.execute method to execute the update command, and then finally call the response.redirect method to redirect the page back to the movies list screen. Now run the datamovies.CS_HTML page in the web browser to see the result. It shows the movies list with all the details. Here select any one of the movies to modify its details. The Edit Movie form opens up. Here let's edit the value of the release year for the selected movie. Then click the Edit Movie button. As a result, the database will be updated and the page will be redirected to the Movies List screen where you can see the updated list of movies. This sample application shows how you can modify the existing data by creating an Edit Data page. Also, it shows how to use the razor code to initialize the form with the correct values from the database and then redirect back to the movies list to see your updates instantly. Thanks for watching this video, hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time.